The beef between Offset and Stefon Diggs is getting really serious. It first started off with a tweet by Offset saying, "Today I pass." Diggs responded to this by posting himself catching a ball on his Instagram story. A photo then came out of Cardi B giving their child the same exact hairstyle as Diggs. Offset responded to this by tweeting, "Now when somebody dies for playing with my son, then call me the crash out." And another tweet saying, "I don't care how I look, the trolling with my kid ends bad."
It's hard to overstate how quickly this story exploded. A late-night incident outside a Florida casino began as a local headline, but within hours, it had grown into one of the biggest celebrity controversies in the country. Offset was unexpectedly taken to the hospital after a shooting, and almost immediately, the internet went into overdrive trying to piece together what really happened. Soon, the conversation stretched far beyond that single night. Online, familiar names began trending at a rapid pace. Rumors spread. Accusations followed. Before long, one surprising name was being pulled into the center of the discussion: Stefon Diggs. Even that, though, was only the beginning of what made this situation so attention-grabbing. As people started digging through older drama connected to Cardi B, past warnings and resurfaced allegations began circulating again, giving the entire story a much heavier tone.
This guy, right, is upset because I sent his girlfriend text messages of him begging me, saying he was gonna take away his life, begging me, saying he's gonna take away my life, all that. He was mad. He's mad about that.
For some observers, the incident didn't look random at all. Others argued the reaction online had become exaggerated and disconnected from the facts. Still, with leaked accounts, social media statements, and a timeline full of gaps, the story only became more complicated. Every new detail seemed to raise another question. Each post, each claim, and each resurfaced moment added another layer to an already confusing situation. Instead of clarity, the public got a flood of speculation, and that only made the controversy grow faster. What makes this even more gripping is how ordinary the night appeared at first. There were no obvious signs that it would become a national talking point just hours later. South Florida was moving like it always does during a high-profile evening. Crowded, energetic, and filled with people coming and going. Outside the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, the valet area was alive with motion. Vehicles rolled in one after another. Guests moved through the entrance in every direction. Bright lights reflected off the pavement. Music carried through the air. The entire scene had the usual mix of glamour, noise, and non-stop activity. On the surface, it looked like just another busy night at one of the area's most recognizable hotspots. Yet in the middle of all that movement, something happened that would suddenly shift the mood and send this story racing across the internet.
Imagine being in your crib, right? You're going through so much drama. You probably got into an argument with your aunt and your cousins and then your husband doing some bullshit in your music career, like in the studio, like you got writer's block. You have all these problems going on.
What had felt like an ordinary scene changed in an instant into something people there would talk about long after the night ended. Without warning, Offset found himself caught in a dangerous incident that quickly exploded across social media and beyond. Early accounts suggested this was not a carefully organized attack. Instead, it appears to have started with a confrontation, a tense exchange that intensified fast, especially in an already charged environment. Those kinds of moments can shift from heated words to something far more serious before anyone has time to react.
People at the scene said Offset became involved in a physical dispute with another person. The energy around them kept rising. Voices got louder, tempers flared, and the tension kept building until the situation suddenly spun out of control. In the middle of that chaos, shots were heard. Offset was struck during the incident, though reports said his injuries were not considered life-threatening. Even with that reassurance, the gravity of what happened was impossible to overlook. Medical teams responded quickly, and he was taken to a nearby hospital, where he was later reported to be in stable condition.
Rapper Offset was just shot in Hollywood, Florida. He's in the hospital right now and in stable condition.
From there, the story moved fast. Within minutes, posts and updates began circulating online. Once the news reached the internet, it stopped being a local story almost immediately. The incident turned into a national headline, drawing attention from fans, media outlets, and people trying to piece together what had happened. As the details spread, one question kept coming up again and again. Who was behind it? That is when another name began appearing in the conversation. Lil TJ was reportedly present at the scene, and not long after the incident, he was taken into custody. For a brief moment, it seemed like the case might already be moving toward a clear explanation. With a major name now linked to the scene, speculation surged online, and the story took on even more intensity. Suddenly, what began as a fast-moving confrontation had become something much bigger, with the public watching every new detail as it emerged. At first, the story looked straightforward. Online reactions exploded almost instantly, and a lot of people rushed to link Lil TJ directly to the shooting. Rumors spread fast, and the headlines only made that assumption feel even bigger. Soon after, though, the narrative began to change. Officials later explained that Lil TJ was not facing any charges connected to the shooting itself.
This is rapper Lil TJ bonding out of the Broward County Jail Tuesday afternoon.
Fight who? Were you involved in a fight at the casino?
Does Offset owe you money?
I don't do no damn fighting.
The rapper's real name is Tyone Merritt. He was at Hollywood's Hard Rock Hotel and Casino Monday night when rapper Offset was shot.
The actual allegations were far less serious: disorderly conduct and issues tied to operating a vehicle without a valid license. There were no firearm-related charges, no attempted murder accusation, and nothing suggesting he was the person who fired the shot. His attorneys moved quickly. They pushed back hard against the claims circulating online and stated clearly that he had no role in the shooting. That clarification shifted the entire conversation. If Lil TJ wasn't the one responsible, then attention had to turn elsewhere. From there, the case became much less certain. Investigators said the confrontation began as a fight, but they also noted that the full picture was still coming together. According to authorities, more people were likely involved, including individuals who had not yet been publicly identified. That lack of clarity created a vacuum, and the internet responded exactly the way it usually does when facts are incomplete. Speculation took over.
Clips from the scene started spreading across social platforms, each one adding more questions than answers. Some videos appeared to show moments from the altercation before the shooting. In one widely shared clip, Offset was seen in a physical confrontation, surrounded by several people, while the tension around him seemed to rise by the second. Even so, the footage didn't provide a complete answer.
Police say the shooting happened outside the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, and the injuries are not life-threatening. 2 suspects have already been detained. Now here's the crazy part. Fans are bringing up Takeoff, his Migos groupmate who was killed in 2022, and police said he wasn't even involved.
What those videos captured was chaos, not certainty. They showed the atmosphere, the pressure, and the confusion leading up to the incident, but they did not clearly reveal who was ultimately responsible. That distinction mattered, even if many viewers ignored it. As the clips continued circulating, people kept building their own theories, often treating partial footage like proof. What started as a breaking story quickly turned into a swirl of assumptions, corrections, and unanswered questions. The more details emerged, the clearer it became that the first version of the story had left out some crucial facts. No clear footage captured the exact instant the shot went off, yet that missing piece only made the speculation worse. Viewers started replaying clips non-stop, studying body language, pauses, and split-second movements as if the truth might be hidden in a single frame.
Before long, the internet did what it always does. It filled in the blanks with rumors. One version of the story pointed to gambling. Other unconfirmed claims suggested money may have been at the center of the conflict. People online floated ideas about unpaid debts, personal disputes, and possibly significant amounts of cash that had never been settled. The figures being mentioned varied wildly, with some posts talking about thousands and others pushing that number into the hundreds of thousands. None of those claims were verified. Law enforcement did not confirm them, and neither did anyone publicly known to be directly involved. Even so, once speculation starts circulating across social media, it rarely stays contained. A theory can spread faster than a fact, especially when the details are incomplete and emotions are already running high. As more people picked up the story, the conversation began to grow beyond that one night. It stopped being just about a single confrontation and started turning into a broader investigation in the public eye. Online audiences began digging through older incidents, previous connections, and unresolved tensions, searching for anything that might explain how the situation escalated to this level.
That wider search eventually brought Cardi B into the center of the discussion. Her past with Offset had never been a private matter.
Their relationship played out in public for years, marked by intense highs, visible strain, and repeated headlines. There were periods when the two appeared to find their way back to each other, followed by moments when the split seemed final and impossible to repair.
Going through a divorce is very tough. You marry somebody and the person that you divorcing is not the person that you marry. You really ask yourself, like, who the did I marry? Like, I get along with all my exes. Even if we don't talk, we never ended it on some nasty, nasty stuff. It has gotten to the point that it's like, I feel like I really hate you. Like,
by this stage, people were no longer looking at the incident in isolation. Instead, they were trying to place it inside a much larger timeline, one shaped by public breakups, reconciliations, and long-standing personal friction. With Cardi B and Offset, that history was already well known, which is exactly why attention shifted in their direction so quickly. By the time this incident took place, the relationship was already over. Their split had unfolded in front of everyone, with fans and media watching every step. Still, the breakup itself wasn't the only thing fueling the conversation. What really pulled people in was the wave of fallout that followed. Before long, older statements, social media posts, and past comments started making the rounds again. Suddenly, people were digging back through months of public moments, trying to connect dots they may have ignored the first time. Remarks about tension resurfaced. Subtle hints of conflict took on new meaning. Small details that once seemed unimportant were now being viewed as possible signs that things behind closed doors were far more strained than they looked. As the speculation grew, another familiar name quickly returned to the spotlight. Stefon Diggs. His connection to Cardi B had already become a major topic online. The attention wasn't limited to one audience either. Both entertainment fans and sports followers were locked in on it. Public appearances had already put them in headlines, and every sighting only added more momentum to the story.
You've got a new man. Are the sparks sparking?
sparkling, honey. 4th of July.
How did you guys meet? Did you reach out to him?
No, you're not supposed to reach out to a man. It was like mutual friends. I thought he was cute. I was like, oh, he gotta be mine.
To many observers, it seemed obvious that Cardi had moved forward. More than that, she appeared to be doing it openly, without trying to hide any part of it. That visibility became part of the reason the story kept growing. Online, many began wondering whether everyone involved was truly at peace with how publicly everything had unfolded. That's when older posts allegedly connected to Offset started circulating once more. A few were vague enough to invite endless interpretation. Others sounded more pointed, which only intensified the reaction online. People began reading into them as possible signs of resentment, jealousy, or frustration over the way events had played out. Even so, none of those posts were ever officially connected to any real-world actions. Despite that, they became central to the online narrative, giving people even more reason to revisit the timeline and question what may have really been happening beneath the surface.
A bigger story was already taking shape across the internet, and it was getting messier by the hour. What began as talk about an altercation outside a casino quickly shifted into something far more layered. Suddenly, people weren't only discussing the confrontation itself. Attention turned toward personal connections, strong emotions, and the idea that lingering tension may have influenced what unfolded, at least in the minds of online spectators. Not everyone accepted that leap. Plenty of people urged caution, warning that linking events too quickly without real proof can lead the public in the wrong direction. Timing alone doesn't confirm a connection. Online guesses are still just guesses, no matter how convincing they may sound. Yet cases like this create the perfect environment for rumor to explode. When confirmed details are limited and public emotions are already running high.
We should be able to co-parent, we should be able to have a conversation, but it's not like that. It's like kind of like very dark. There is no love there. The love is dead.
Theories move faster than verified information ever can. While social media kept building its own version of events, investigators stayed focused on something very different. Their attention remained on the tangible evidence, the individuals who were actually there, and the exact chain of events that ended in the shooting. From a law enforcement standpoint, this remained an open investigation, one that demanded patience, close review, and careful fact-checking, rather than emotional reactions or internet assumptions.
Outside that official process, however, the story was no longer staying contained. It had already grown beyond the scene itself. What started as a local incident was now being discussed across the country, pulling in viewers, commenters, and amateur analysts from everywhere. Verified details mixed with fragments of information. Partial accounts collided with viral theories. Before long, the public conversation became a blend of what was known, what was unclear, and what people believed might be true. That's how cases like this transform in real time. An isolated event becomes a national obsession, and once that happens, separating fact from narrative becomes harder with every passing hour. What started as a single incident was quickly turning into something far more complicated. Even with all the noise surrounding it, one major mystery still had no clear answer. If this wasn't a deliberate attack, and if authorities still hadn't publicly confirmed exactly who was responsible, then what unfolded in those crucial seconds when an argument spiraled into gunfire? Somewhere inside that sequence of events, from the confrontation to the confusion that followed, an important detail seems to be missing. That missing moment could either tie the whole story together or completely change how people understand it. As new pieces of information continue to emerge, one fact is becoming impossible to ignore. This case is nowhere near finished.
While investigators kept working through the shooting, the conversation online began moving in a different direction. People were no longer focused only on what happened outside the casino that night. Attention started shifting toward a much bigger backdrop, one that many believe had been developing quietly for a long time. For those following every update, the scene outside the casino didn't seem like a random, isolated flashpoint. Instead, it looked to some like the latest chapter in a much longer chain of tension, a situation that may have been building behind closed doors until it finally reached a breaking point. To understand why so many people saw it that way, you have to look beyond the immediate headlines and go back to Cardi B and Offset. Their relationship had always played out on a huge stage. From red carpet appearances to hit collaborations, from viral social media clips to public moments that kept fans talking, their connection was constantly in view.
Offset has finally spoken about his breakup with Cardi B, and what he shared changes everything. He revealed that while he was often accused of cheating, Cardi was actually the one being unfaithful, even during her pregnancy. Offset says he didn't post about it on social media because men are often judged when they share their side. He explained that women sometimes use emotional tactics online.
At first glance, it all appeared glamorous, powerful, and larger than reality itself. They looked like one of those celebrity couples whose lives were always moving at full volume, always surrounded by attention, excitement, and speculation. Yet what the public saw was only part of the picture. Beneath the polished posts and high-profile appearances, there were clearly deeper layers to the story, and those layers may now matter more than ever.
Even with all the attention around them, serious problems kept coming back. For years, their relationship was shadowed by cheating rumors, tense public moments, and clear emotional pressure. Efforts were made to work through it, but the same issues kept returning. Over time, the damage stacked up until there was nothing left to fix. Once the breakup happened, it did not stay private for long. The split unfolded in full view of the public, with statements being shared, reactions spreading fast, and opinions pouring in from every corner of the internet. Supporters picked sides almost instantly. Online commentators added their own takes, and suddenly every post, appearance, and small move from either of them was being analyzed as part of a much bigger story. Still, that was only the beginning. The real turning point came right after. While Offset seemed to be dealing with everything that followed the breakup, Cardi B appeared to step into a new chapter. She moved on in a way that got immediate attention and sparked non-stop conversation. It was bold, visible, and impossible for people to miss. That is when Stefon Diggs became part of the story. Almost overnight, their connection turned into one of the hottest topics online. They were spotted together in public, seen at events, and tied to multiple appearances that made one thing very clear. This did not look temporary or casual. Each new sighting added more fuel, and every image seemed to push the conversation even further.
From the outside, a lot of people came to the same conclusion. It looked like Cardi had completely left the past behind and was fully focused on what was next. Meanwhile, the online narrative around Offset started moving in a very different direction. According to the speculation building across social media, he had not moved on nearly as easily. That is where things became even more intense. Older posts began getting pulled back into the spotlight. Alleged messages started circulating. Past moments were re-examined. What had already been a public breakup was now turning into an even bigger online saga, with every detail being treated like evidence in a story that people could not stop following. Mysterious comments started popping up again. A few were easy to miss, while others sounded far more pointed. Yet the public kept reading them the exact same way. To many observers, they looked like signs of someone having a hard time coping with everything unfolding around him. Whether that reading was fair or completely off base didn't seem to matter. Once that idea took hold, it spread fast and became a major part of the narrative.
Soon after, the story shifted in an even more dramatic direction. Public reaction and non-stop online guessing were only one layer of it. At the same time, a different set of claims began gaining traction, one suggesting the situation behind closed doors may have been much more complicated. Rumors of strain, private disputes, and even alleged intimidation started making the rounds. None of it appeared to come from official channels. Instead, the conversation was being driven by internet personalities, social media users, and people whose reliability varied widely. Among the names that pulled the most attention was Selena Powell. Just mentioning her was enough to split audiences instantly.
All the cameras are down, he's not online. All this man wants to do is go gamble and fuck and cuddle and talk about Cardi B all day. I could be like, how's the weather? He'd be like, it's really nice, but you know what? I think it's cold where Cardi's at.
Critics were quick to reject anything tied to her, citing a long record of controversy and past statements that had been challenged. Even so, others leaned in the moment she claimed to have had personal exchanges with Offset. According to Selena's version of events, those alleged interactions revealed far more than ordinary breakup stress. She portrayed someone she believed was not simply upset over a split, but increasingly emotionally volatile. In her telling, the conversations included visible resentment, intense frustration, and language aimed at people in Cardi B's circle that many listeners viewed as deeply concerning.
That is where the speculation intensified. What had started as vague posts and emotional reactions was now being recast as something darker and more serious. Online discussion exploded, with every new detail being picked apart, repeated, and debated. Supporters, doubters, and casual viewers all seemed to land in different places. Still, one thing was clear. By that point, the story was no longer just about a breakup. It had turned into a full-scale public mystery, fueled by rumor, interpretation, and claims that were impossible for many people to ignore. Everything intensified when talk of a supposed audio clip began making the rounds. According to the accusation, Powell was heard saying that Offset had made menacing comments about a person she named as Stefon Diggs. Once that detail hit the internet, it spread fast. Some treated it like undeniable proof. Others dismissed it as overblown gossip, while many questioned whether the entire story had been invented from the start. Here's what matters most. None of those claims were ever confirmed. No police department publicly verified a legitimate threat. No official documents tied the rumor to any active case. Even without hard evidence, the conversation kept expanding, gaining momentum every time it was reposted, discussed, or reinterpreted online.
Meanwhile, a separate wave of accusations started to surface. This time, the focus shifted to another person who alleged that Offset had attempted to pull her into some kind of scheme. Images of messages circulated, social media posts framed the situation in dramatic ways. Predictably, the reaction was immediate. Believers took it seriously, skeptics pushed back. Still, whether people trusted the allegations or doubted every word, the result was exactly the same. Together, these stories created a larger impression, one that hinted at unseen issues unfolding out of public view. As that impression grew, it began shaping how people interpreted the shooting itself. What may have once looked to some like a standalone event no longer felt so simple. Instead, more people started asking whether it might be tied to a series of tensions and rumors that had been building for some time. That shift in perception changed everything. The more these accusations circulated, the more the public started connecting separate events into one bigger, more mysterious storyline. Verified or not, the speculation was already doing its job. It was influencing opinions, fueling suspicion, and making the situation appear far more layered than anyone could clearly prove. What turned this story into such a spectacle wasn't just the public fallout or the reported threats. It was the way completely separate pieces started getting lumped together, as if they were part of one larger plot.
Take a step back, though, and the verified information tells a much simpler story. Authorities have repeatedly framed the shooting as an incident that grew out of a confrontation, a situation that spiraled beyond control during the moment itself. Up to that point, nothing official suggested it had been arranged in advance, deliberately aimed at someone, or tied to a broader personal conflict involving Stefon Diggs or anyone beyond the people directly present. That's the point where rumor and reality clearly split apart. While online conversations were turning the situation into an elaborate theory, packed with supposed motives, hidden connections, and dramatic implications, the confirmed account stayed relatively plain. A dispute took place, tensions rose, a weapon entered the situation. Meanwhile, investigators had not yet publicly identified or charged a specific person responsible. Even with that lack of confirmation, the guessing only grew louder. In fact, it seemed to pick up speed. Internet users began combing through anything they could get their hands on, searching for signs that might support the story they believed was unfolding.
Monday's shooting followed a fight at the Seminole Hard Rock in Hollywood, Florida, police said. 2 people were detained by police, and officials are investigating the incident, according to a statement from the police department. A rapper known as Lil TJ was arrested for the altercation that occurred before the shooting, police said. He was charged with disorderly conduct and operating a vehicle without a valid license.
Older interviews were pulled back into circulation. Social media activity from the past was re-examined. Public appearances were scrutinized for meaning. Nearly every visible detail became, in someone's eyes, a possible clue. Before long, people were building full timelines out of scattered moments, linking events that may have had no real relationship to one another at all. The more those theories spread, the more complicated the narrative became, even though the official facts had not changed in any major way. At the center of all this noise was one person who remained fixed in the conversation, whether there was clear evidence tying him to the broader claims or not. That's what gave the situation its staying power. Once a name becomes attached to a viral narrative, separating verified information from assumption becomes much harder. And that's exactly where this story seemed to spiral. Stefon Diggs said virtually nothing, even as his name kept getting pulled into the discussion. He never released a public comment, never pushed back on the rumors, and never directly addressed the claims swirling around him. His refusal to speak quickly became a story of its own. For some observers, that quiet response suggested separation. In their view, someone uninvolved might simply choose not to fuel speculation with a reaction. Others took the opposite position, reading his silence as something more meaningful. Still, without a clear statement from Diggs himself, every theory stayed in the same category: speculation, not proof.
At the same time, older remarks from Cardi B began drawing fresh attention. She had previously spoken about feeling unsafe in dealing with repeated harassment. When those comments first surfaced, many people treated them as part of a personal dispute, something limited to a tense moment in her private life. Now, with more conversation building around the broader situation, those same statements started to look different to the public. People began asking new questions. Were those earlier comments subtle warnings that carried more weight than anyone realized at the time? Could they have been tied to a bigger pattern that only became visible later? Or were they simply the honest words of someone under pressure during a difficult chapter? No one had solid answers, and that uncertainty only made the entire situation more tangled. That was the core of the problem. On one side were the pieces that appeared concrete: a reported incident, an active investigation, and information that had been put forward as part of the official picture. On the other side sat interpretation, online chatter, resurfaced clips, and assumptions built from silence and timing. Once those two worlds started blending together, the narrative became harder to separate from the noise. Facts existed, but so did emotion, suspicion, and endless commentary. As more people tried to connect the dots, the line between what was known and what was merely believed became increasingly blurred. That's why the story felt so difficult to pin down. It wasn't just about what had happened. It was also about how every missing response, every old statement, and every unanswered question kept feeding the mystery. Officials were working from evidence. Online, a very different narrative was taking shape through rumors, accusations, and bold interpretations that made the situation seem far bigger and far more explosive. The reality likely sits somewhere in the middle. Getting to it, though, is not as easy as linking a few details together or trusting whatever gains traction on social media. Real clarity comes from drawing a hard line between what investigators have actually confirmed and what people have merely suggested. Just because two details seem related does not automatically mean they truly are. With more time, the picture will probably sharpen. Detectives will keep reviewing the events of that night step by step, and eventually the public should have a stronger understanding of what happened, who played a role, and what led to it. For now, however, the case is unfolding in two completely different versions.
One is the official account, built on documented evidence, witness statements, and the investigative process. The other lives online, fueled by emotion, assumptions, and the very human urge to create answers before every fact is on the table. At this moment, those two stories are not moving closer together. They are drifting further apart. In the days after the shooting, the noise around the case intensified, attention exploded, yet solid clarity remained out of reach. What began as a single violent event outside a Florida casino quickly transformed into something much larger on the internet.
His lawyer noted in a statement that he was not charged in the shooting. The second person detained at the scene has not been charged, and investigators are working to identify others involved.
Soon, every major platform was overflowing with reaction videos, amateur breakdowns, competing timelines, and countless theories claiming to reveal what really happened. Each new post seemed to add another layer of confusion. Instead of narrowing the focus, the constant flood of commentary made the situation harder to follow. That is how the incident stopped being just an investigation and became an online battleground. Facts were being weighed on one side, while speculation spread rapidly on the other. As emotions grew stronger, the gap between verified information and viral belief only widened. And that divide may be the most important part of the story right now. No one had the full story yet, and the biggest question was still hanging in the air. What really happened, and what set it all off?
At the heart of the situation was Offset, still recovering after the shooting, while investigators worked through the details of that night piece by piece. From an official standpoint, the focus stayed narrow. Authorities were looking at a confrontation that turned into gunfire, and that remained the core of the case. Online, though, the conversation had already moved far beyond the known facts. What started as discussion about the incident quickly spiraled into something much bigger. Suddenly, people were pulling in personal relationships, long-running tensions, alleged warnings, and a tangled network of celebrity ties that, depending on who was telling the story, either made the whole situation seem obvious or had nothing to do with it at all. That's when everything became far messier. Before long, Cardi B and Stefon Diggs had been pulled into the middle of the speculation, despite the fact that neither had any confirmed link to the shooting itself. Their names kept surfacing again and again, not because investigators had connected them to the case, but because the internet thrives on proximity. A past romance, a public sighting, an old rumor suddenly resurfacing. Those fragments were being pieced together into a storyline that sounded convincing, even when the facts didn't support it. As more people repeated that version of events, the gap between truth and rumor only grew wider. Misinformation started spreading at full speed. Edited videos began circulating as if they were proof. Fake screenshots were passed around as though they had been verified. Unconfirmed leaks made their way across social media, gaining traction simply because they were dramatic enough to keep attention locked in. Certain clips were framed as secret conversations, even though no one had authenticated them. Some accounts pushed speculation as established fact. Others recycled older rumors and presented them like fresh developments. By that point, the story wasn't just about the shooting anymore. It had become a storm of assumptions, half-truths, and viral claims. Exactly the kind of chaos that can make a real investigation even harder to follow. Little by little, each retelling picked up a new twist, until tracing the story back to where it began became almost impossible. That's often how online firestorms take shape today. They rarely explode because of solid, confirmed information. More often, they spread because the same idea keeps getting repeated, reshaped, and passed along until it starts to feel true.
A major point of speculation came from people online who claimed they had private insight into tensions involving Offset and individuals tied to Cardi B's personal world. Those posts painted a messy picture, ranging from personal arguments to supposed intimidation. Even so, none of it was backed by public documents, verified evidence, or any official comment. Yet the rumors kept moving.
There's a reason that happens. In moments filled with uncertainty, audiences usually want more than raw facts. They want an explanation that feels complete. When confirmed details are scarce, the internet rushes in to fill the gap with stories, assumptions, and theories that may sound convincing, even when they don't hold up. At the same time, investigators stayed focused on the actual casino shooting and followed a much more methodical path. Their work centered on identifying everyone involved, piecing together the sequence of events, and figuring out exactly how the situation turned into a violent encounter. From the beginning, early law enforcement statements repeatedly described the incident as starting with a physical confrontation rather than something planned in advance. That difference was critical. It pushed back against the growing narrative that the shooting was somehow part of a much bigger story unfolding outside the casino. Despite all the online speculation, authorities had not presented official evidence connecting the incident to celebrity relationships, social media conflict, or any broader personal drama.
The FBI has released new photos of suspects who they think are connected to the shooting of Atlanta rapper Offset. And investigators are now asking for the public's help. So take a look. Investigators say the men in these photos attacked Offset outside of a Hard Rock casino in Hollywood, Florida.
While the internet kept building a dramatic version of events, the investigation itself remained grounded in specifics, procedure, and what could actually be verified. None of the claims spreading online were backed by anything official. Even so, the rumors didn't fade. They grew louder.
As investigators kept working, the internet started digging backward. Earlier interviews suddenly took on new meaning. Old social media posts were picked apart line by line. Moments that had nothing to do with the case were pulled into the conversation and presented as if they revealed some bigger secret playing out behind the scenes. That kind of look back can feel convincing. It gives people the sense that they are connecting dots others missed. Still, it can also distort reality. Once someone becomes convinced there's a hidden storyline, almost everything starts to look like proof, including things that may be completely ordinary or unrelated. That's exactly how this situation unfolded. Tiny details were elevated into major talking points. Ordinary moments became evidence, depending on who was telling the story. With every new theory, the narrative became more dramatic, even though the core facts remained unchanged. Most importantly, one thing never shifted. There was still no verified connection between Stefon Diggs and the shooting, despite how often his name appeared in online discussions. No official statement tied him to it. No investigative findings placed him near the event. No credible source linked him to the cause of what happened. Even so, his name continued to trend for one simple reason. People connected him to the story through association, not proof. That distinction matters more than many viral posts are willing to admit. Being mentioned is not the same as being implicated. Online attention can spread fast, but attention alone does not establish facts. In this case, public fascination moved far ahead of anything that had actually been confirmed. The louder the speculation became, the easier it was for viewers to confuse repetition with reliability. That's often how viral narratives take shape. A name gets repeated enough times, and eventually it starts to feel connected, even when the evidence still isn't there. Meanwhile, the private lives of everyone involved continue to be scrutinized. What should have remained separate from the case was suddenly being folded into it. Offset and Cardi B's relationship, already under constant public scrutiny, started getting analyzed in a way it never had before. Old moments between them were pulled back into the spotlight and treated like warning signs, even though they were never presented that way at the time. This happens to celebrities all the time. Personal history gets rewritten after the fact, and private experiences are turned into supposed clues for events that may have nothing to do with them. Once that starts, emotion takes over the story. People stop looking for real evidence and begin connecting dots based on drama, timing, and assumption. That was exactly the situation here. Past breakups, social media posts, and long-running rumors were all dragged into the conversation around the casino shooting, whether they actually belonged there or not. The result was a growing narrative built more on speculation than proof. As the discussion spread online, more names and more side stories kept getting attached, making it even harder to tell what was relevant and what was simply attracting attention. At the center of much of that debate was Selena Powell, one of the most polarizing people involved in the online chatter. Her allegations, including reported conversations and claimed recordings, became a major point of argument across social media. For some, what she said added useful background to an already messy situation. For others, her long history of controversy made her impossible to trust. Either way, her presence changed the tone of the discussion. Suddenly, the story was no longer just about one incident. It began to feel like a tangled mix of personal disputes, unresolved tension, and internet-fueled conflict, all blending together in ways that were difficult to untangle. That overlap made the entire situation seem even more complicated than it already was. Even with all of those claims moving rapidly online, one key fact remained unchanged. None of them had been verified. Nothing about this story should be treated as confirmed unless it comes from investigators or reporting that has been independently verified. That is the central issue here.
When a celebrity case unfolds in real time, the boundary between factual coverage and dramatic narrative can disappear quickly. At the beginning, the available details are usually fragmented. In that uncertainty, people start building explanations to connect the missing pieces. Those versions of events move across the internet far faster than later corrections ever do. By the time confirmed information finally arrives, many people have already locked in their opinions based on the most sensational version. That is why the official investigation carries so much weight. Unlike online discussion, it is not supposed to run on rumor, anonymous tips, or viral speculation. Its purpose is to rely on evidence, witness statements, and a careful reconstruction of what actually happened. Based on the most recent confirmed updates, investigators have not changed their overall position. Their view remains that the shooting began with a confrontation at the scene. They have also indicated that the complete list of people connected to the incident may still not be finalized. Even with that uncertainty, there has still been no verified sign of a larger coordinated plot, no confirmed connection to outside celebrities, and no evidence backing the more explosive claims spreading online. Of course, that does not mean the case is over. The story is still unfolding. New facts could come out. Additional arrests could still happen. Certain details may become clearer as the investigation continues.
Until those developments are confirmed, though, anything beyond the established facts stays exactly where it belongs, in the category of speculation. That distinction matters, especially in a case where public attention can turn assumptions into accepted truth almost overnight. Here's where things currently stand. There was a genuine incident, an actual injury, and an active investigation. Around those facts, though, a far bigger storm has formed, driven by rumors, personal interpretations, and non-stop online storytelling that keeps expanding even without fresh confirmed evidence. Now the focus has shifted. It's no longer only about what took place that night. The bigger issue is how fast one moment can grow into an entire digital mythology. In that kind of environment, confirmed details and imagined versions start blending together until telling one from the other becomes incredibly difficult. For now, one thing remains clear. The full truth has not been finalized because the investigation is still ongoing. Even so, the internet has already built its own narrative, complete with assumptions, theories, and confident conclusions. That's what makes this situation so striking. What began as a confrontation outside a Florida casino has since exploded into one of the most talked about celebrity controversies online. Attention around the case has only intensified as Offset continues recovering, investigators keep working, and social media users flood every platform with endless speculation.
As the conversation grows louder, the gap between what is known and what is merely being suggested has become harder than ever to see. Every new post, reaction, and theory adds another layer, making the story feel bigger, messier, and more dramatic than the confirmed facts alone. Even with all the online claims pulling Cardi B and Stefon Diggs into the discussion, there is still no verified evidence connecting either of them to the shooting in any way. That detail matters, especially in a moment like this, when public opinion can move much faster than confirmed information. So at this stage, the reality is both simple and complicated. A real-life event happened. People were affected. A authorities are still sorting through the evidence. Yet at the same time, the internet has turned that event into something much larger, where speculation often spreads quicker than facts. Until officials reach a final conclusion, the story remains unfinished, no matter how many versions of it are already circulating online. As this case moves forward, investigators are concentrating on one thing: verified evidence. Online chatter may spread fast, but it does not carry the same weight as facts that can actually be confirmed. That shift changes everything. Here's the bigger issue. When a story explodes across the internet, how do you tell the difference between what's real and what's being shaped for clicks, reactions, and non-stop attention? In moments like this, the version people hear the most can easily feel true, even when it is not the full picture.
Rumors grow quickly. Speculation fills the gaps. Viral posts can turn uncertainty into a dramatic storyline before the evidence has had time to catch up. That is exactly why it matters to slow down and look at what has truly been established, rather than what is simply trending. If you want more coverage like this, focused on sorting out confirmed details from online exaggeration, breaking down celebrity controversies in a clear way, and following major developments as they actually happen, stay with us. Be sure to like, subscribe, and switch on notifications so you do not miss what comes next. The moment new verified information becomes available, we will bring you the latest update.